Howdy, y'all. Before I jump into the steamy tier list action, I want to thank you all for 100 subscribers. It's been so cool to see support for the channel growing, and knowing that people are liking what I'm putting out there really means a lot. All this being said, let me lay down the ground rules for the tier list. Rule 1. This list is objectively correct and cannot be overruled by anybody. Rule 2. My rulings are based on my own interpretations and experiences, so if you disagree, I encourage discussion in the comments, and I'll happily join in as well. Rule 3. This tier list will only be including Zombies maps made by Treyarch and will be excluding remasters, but including remakes. If everything sounds good, let's jump right in. Starting in chronological release order, I'll be starting with Nacht der Untoten. Back before the days of data mines and frequent leaks, what you knew about a game was much more limited, both pre- and post-launch, as the Zombies mode was left in the dark, until you finished the campaign, that is, after which you find yourself in a cutscene. Is this a tease for the next Call of Duty? Simply a post-credit scene, or maybe it's the beginning of recurring nightmares for unprepared gamers around the world. The beginning of the game mode that has enraptured so many people through the years and has led to the highs and lows of a community that has been both unconditionally loving and unforgivingly brutal. All of this being said, it's not that good. Nostalgia glasses are truly the mental Viagra that's been keeping this map as relevant as it has been. Outside of storyline implications, this map is truly the definition of humble beginnings. Nacht introduces us to what would become staples of the series. Endless rounds, increasing in difficulty, the mystery box, buyable doors, wall weapons, barriers, etc. Contrary to what some would believe, being able to put the first map a bit lower because of the contrast between later works is really a testament to how well they perfected their craft and gave us bigger, better experiences. Although, because it is such a bare-bones experience, the memories we all share of this classic map really are the best things about it. D tier. Next up, we have Verrückt. The first experience the community would have with an expansion to the ever-popular Zombies mode would certainly add to the atmosphere, as well as beginning to add a tiny bit more to the story with the addition of Tank Dempsey to the roster. Gameplay-wise, Perca-Colas and traps made their debut, adding a mechanic to buff your character and stand a chance against the undead hordes. All of these things being said, the layout of the map absolutely kills it for me. Even throughout remasters and touch-ups, this map has never done anything for me. Something I'll admit is that by the time I became a Zombies regular, all of the innovations from Verrückt were already in newer, more fun, inventive, and playable maps. Like I said before, the atmosphere is rad, and it's unsettling in the coolest ways. The innovations brought about in the map were very, very welcome additions, but ultimately would serve to better the formula as opposed to the map itself. I hate to do this to you, Verrückt. F tier. Rolling right along, we have Shi No Numa. As the second expansion for World at War Zombies, there was still plenty of room for improvement when Shi No Numa came around, and to be fair, it kinda delivered. We got the innovations from Verrückt, such as perks and traps, as well as new additions such as Hellhounds, a new wonder weapon called the Wonderwaff, and for the very first time, our official playable crew, Takeo, Richtofen, Dempsey, and Nikolai. If all of this wasn't enough, the map really feels more unique and has a bit more personality, brought both by the environment itself and by our characters. It is worth mentioning that, in my opinion, Shi No Numa falls right in the middle of the workshop period of Zombies, where we were still missing some essential elements, and we were still just taking it all in stride. This isn't a negative, and I still have an appreciation for the map itself, however, it does prevent it from being ranked higher. C tier. Rounding off our World at War coverage, we have Riese. Riese is Zombies. It is not perfect, but it's still unapologetically Zombies at its core. We mold together every good thing about the previous three maps, add more story, more gameplay, and more fun. This is when Zombies really became Zombies in my eyes. Blasting Beauty of Annihilation, tearing through the hordes is something every gamer should experience at least once. In terms of specific points I can touch on, we have the beautiful, visceral sound design of the map, punctuated perfectly by the new sounds of the pack-a-punch weapons, the monkey bomb, the teleporters. The list could go on, but I'll quit glazing and I'll start hazing. Because it's still in the first game cycle of Zombies, despite it being the best of the first four maps by far, it still finds itself eclipsed by what is to come, being hampered by the capabilities of technology, scope, and budget. However, this map still manages to cement itself as an unforgettable experience, and the cornerstone of Zombies that would be built upon from here on out. A very solid B tier. Moving right along, we have Kino der Toten. Kino is where my Zombies journey began. What I knew of it started by sneaking out past my bedtime to watch my brother and his friend play Kino for hours on end in the living room. Even though it terrified me, I was mesmerized by everything I saw. not saying a word lest I be yelled at, alerting my parents to my expert works of espionage. Stories aside, Kino really grabbed the reins and leaned into what made zombies so much fun. The characters were livelier, the map was bigger, but at the same time connected in such ways that it never felt impossible to traverse. For better or for worse, Nova Crawlers made their debut in Kino, alongside returning favorites such as traps, perks, etc. The most interesting addition to me, however, was the iconic Thunder Gun, a wonder weapon that launched enemies with the power of Zeus. Now, this being a launch map, it does feel a tiny bit underwhelming, and for being the new and improved zombies, it feels like it could have been a World at War map. Oh. Well, actually, that makes sense. That being said, there is no shortage of fun when you can get your friends together to fuck around for hours on end, and playing zombies with friends ain't bad either. B tier. Well, we had to cover it eventually. We have 5. 5's a tough one to cover. For starters, I have to mention, the terror people felt after the World at War campaign when Nacht started was the same terror I felt when 5 booted up, and I damn near hyperventilated trying to return to menu as I heard glass shattering and dead moans. But let's just say I was a multiplayer guy for quite some time. 5 has a stellar concept and is thoroughly intriguing, mostly in theory, like the Winter Howl wonder weapon. The crew is hard to beat and has some of the best quotes of the series, hands down. The map has a ton of personality, but in terms of design, the Pentagon and its series of hallways don't exactly make for the most open or interesting layout. It does bolster the effects of the new boss round, though, Post Malone, aka the Pentagon Thief. Chasing down the players, swiping guns before trying to escape, and taking your guns with him. It's a pretty neat little addition, and honestly, it's one of my favorite parts of the map. The bits of creativity in theory, alongside the memorable crew, really save this map in the long run. B tier. Next up, we have Ascension. Ascension's a tough one as well, as it toys with a lot of new concepts and ideas which are really neat in theory, but in execution fall relatively flat. In the place of a new wonder weapon, we get the Matryoshka dolls, which work as cluster bombs, and the Gersh device, which functions as a portable black hole generator. When you spawn in, the color seems to be missing from the map, which only returns when power is restored, which is a neat touch but doesn't really benefit the map here nor there. In place of Hellhounds, Ascension blessed us with what may be the most frustrating round boss: monkeys. These primates seek out both players and, unfortunately, perks. This means that if you already bought your perks and the monkeys come around, they'll start their Chris Brown Rihanna roleplay with the perk machines, and if they go ham enough, your perk is gone. The only saving grace is if you're able to stave off the little fucks and protect your perks flawlessly, the last monkey of the round will drop a perk for you. The next feature is the Lunar Landers, which make up the transportation throughout the map, as well as being the means for accessing Pack-a-Punch, by launching the rocket looming over the map. This brings me to the biggest and most important aspect of the map. There's so much more to do, whether it be fighting monkeys, protecting perks, working the landers, powering the rockets, even having the ability to destroy the rockets. The level of interaction in Ascension is next level. This is all leading up to what I consider to be one of the most important additions to zombies, a main Easter egg quest. Keeping story aside, and remembering that it is the first main quest, you can definitely see that they were still getting used to the formula and trying to innovate, which is fantastic. But once again, I have to be honest, all the attempts at innovation made for great practice, and at the time was revolutionary, but Ascension as a map is, well, forgettable. The main quest requires 4 participants, which means a lot of people just won't take the time to get a group together, as it really isn't anything special when compared to the grandeur that would come later. Once you finish opening Pack-a-Punch, the only thing that really requires attention is the monkeys and perks, which, if playing solo, is going to be a losing battle unless you have a solid plan. And if you have one, well, why? There are methods to make keeping perks easier, and Ascension was even my first round 100, so I appreciate it more than some might. But even with everything it brings to the table, I'd rather play Kino. C tier. Here we have one of my favorites, Call of the Dead. Call of the Dead holds a special place in my heart. Even as a kid playing it for the first time, the opening cutscene blew me away. It got across everything that I love about zombies. It was badass, but funny at the same time. Funny being something kid me needed to take the edge off if I ever wanted to touch solo mode. Zombie mastermind George Romero is the boss zombie of the map, always lumbering around, quipping as he walks, but sufficiently terrifying anyone that would be foolish enough to walk close enough to hit, or to fire at him. The playable characters are made up by a star-studded cast of TV and movie stars Robert Englund, Michael Rooker, Danny Trejo, and Sarah Michelle Gellar, or Freddy Krueger, one of the Dixon brothers, Machete, and Daphne. This marks the first time that we've had a guest cast, and the chemistry they share with each other and the atmosphere makes for a really enjoyable experience. The map itself differentiates itself from the others, as there is so much more life and interactivity than anything we'd gotten before, and it holds up fantastically. There's a lighthouse, a ship, icy walkways, frozen water, zip lines, flingers, a unique boss, it just goes on and on. We get 2 new wonder weapons between the Scavenger and the VR-11, the first of which is a delayed explosive sniper rifle, and the latter is a wonder weapon with the ability to transform zombies back to humans. Last but not least, Call of the Dead's Easter egg is one of my favorite of the bunch. It involves saving our original crew as they are trapped in a cell, so we must complete tasks and explore the map as per usual. However, there's so much more to the personality and atmosphere provided by the egg. It feels a lot more involved and truly feels like the first time it was a next-gen upgrade to a map from World at War. It has a less than perfect layout, but fits into a rare case where the environment, personality, and atmosphere overshadow and outrank those gripes. A tier. In the jungle, the mighty jungle, we have Shangri-La. Shangri-La follows in the steps of Call of the Dead with a fantastic Easter egg, brilliant atmosphere and environments, riveting story, and a badass wonder weapon. Unfortunately, it also doubles down on the close quarters layout, which in portions is fine, but when the entire map is comprised of it, just doesn't lend itself to the normie mindset or even the high round grind set. What's even more baffling is that the Easter egg is another that mandates 4 players, which makes navigating the map and keeping trains apart infinitely more difficult, as camping only gets you so far. Whining out of the way, let me glaze. The map is a beautiful diversion from what we had come to expect regarding environments, barring Call of the Dead. A lot of Zombies maps had a samey type of feel when it came to atmosphere, typically being military installation overrun by zombies. This time we have a map in broad daylight in an ancient jungle paradise, leaning more into the mysticism of the series. Not only in the Easter egg, but with the wonder weapon as well, the 3179JGB215, or the Baby Maker. This is an amazing wonder weapon both aesthetically, functionally, and statistically. The transportation on the map also goes above and beyond, with water spouts, slides, mine carts, also new zombie types with the Screamers and the Napalm Zombies. Really cool map, neutered by some of its shortcomings. C tier. Moon. This is when Treyarch really went to bat. They pointed out to the stands and they hit a triple. Still great, but not perfect. I'll start by talking about Spawn. Anxiety incarnate when I first loaded into it with a friend, but over time I realized how much I truly love this idea. It allowed for you to hone your skills a bit, as well as providing an area that, as opposed to being a one-off, is a destination you actually have to work to get back to. The downside comes from the perks that switch back and forth every time you go back to Area 51. If it was Mule Kick and Deadshot, I could let it slide, but it's Speed and Jug. This creates an unfortunate and irritating scenario when you go down. However, past this, actually teleporting to the moon, experiencing the gravity, the change in sound, and the atmosphere is really something else. It felt magical the first time I played it, and it still feels really cool to just mess around with. Fitting the theme, the zombie boss this time around is a spaceman, who slowly bounces towards the player, sporting the name of a random player on your friends list, and if he catches you, say goodbye to a perk and hello to a red screen. The map itself is a great mix of close quarters between larger areas to train, which really feels more natural and welcome. The wonder weapons of the map are also perfectly themed and are insanely fun to use. Between the return of the Gersh device, the addition of the QED, which is basically a randomized grenade with varying effects, and the brand new wave gun, an akimbo/all-in-one blaster that can both zap zombies or blow them up like marshmallows in a microwave. The bone I have to pick with this map is related to the excavators that randomly cut into the moon base, depressurizing the area and blocking off certain paths. This ends up being related to the Easter egg, but really puts a damper on everything else. There is a way to move and shift the excavators with a new item called the Hacker, but because it takes the same slot as your space helmet, you might not remember to grab it until it's too late. Typically, I'd leave it there, but I need to give credit where it's due. The Easter egg raises the bar for presentation and is one of the greatest spectacles we have ever seen in zombies. B tier. Boy oh boy, this one's gonna catch some flack. We have Tranzit. Where to begin, man? Obviously, there's a bit of a stigma regarding Tranzit in the community, but I have to be honest. Although it doesn't execute the ideas it has perfectly, it really makes for a ton of fun. The map itself is segmented due to the original formula of Black Ops 2 having multiple game modes planned, but it actually gives the map a much better sense of connectivity when you play it. And the layers the map has between underground areas, above ground areas, innovative transportation, traps, and buildables that actually affect the map itself by opening the doors, upgrading the bus, or accessing different areas. This map feels dead, but at the same time, alive. With so many different unique areas with their own secrets and interactable portions, it compounds the mystery and atmosphere a lot. All of this being said, the Easter egg is a tough one, and not in a good way. The map is covered with lava that hinders movement, and there is fog covering the majority of the pathways between sections of the map. In the fog, there's also some Flint, Michigan babies that latch on and impair movement even more. But the saving grace to make travel on the map easier is also the most entertaining and memorable aspect of Tranzit: the bus. The map itself is really ahead of its time, and the bus is one of those silver linings that shines through the fog and makes you realize just how cool and fun the map can be. That being said, the Wonder Weapon blows and sucks, and the new perk was literally dead on arrival. B tier. Taking a little bit of a detour, a Route B if you will, we have Nuketown. What do you get when you mix the best Call of Duty mode with the best multiplayer map in COD history? Well, it turns out the answer is mediocrity. We all got what we wanted, but at what cost? The map is small and works well as a challenge, but that's about all it is. There's no Easter egg, no buildables, just perks and guns. And I've still had a lot of fun on this map, don't get me wrong. In fact, I think you can have fun on just about any map if you try hard enough, but as a little bonus map, it only just fits the bill. D tier. Going from fantastic map to community favorite Die Rise. If you thought Tranzit was the black sheep of the COD Zombies family, I have never heard in my life the words "Let's play Die Rise" escape from somebody's lips. It's a mess with some redeeming qualities. Like Tranzit, you get the idea of what they were trying to do, but once again, it's ahead of its time, and unlike Tranzit, it's not really fun. The Wonder Weapon is awesome, and the verticality of the map makes for a really interesting and unique twist on the gameplay, but it doesn't stick to landing, much like most people who give the map a try. The round boss zombies are a spin-off of the Nova 6 crawlers called Jumping Jacks, which might just be more annoying if that's possible. The Easter egg is in the same vein as Tranzit, helping either Richtofen or Maxis, but generally the same idea, and all in all, the map just doesn't work. However, it's worth mentioning this map is getting a remake by some beautiful community members, making it look nicer, play better, and polishing it into what it originally was supposed to be. But, unfortunately for them, I'm ranking the original. C tier. Next up is Mob of the Dead. Marking the second of the celebrity crews, Mob of the Dead was a total departure from what we had been dealing with from Tranzit and Die Rise, a fleshed-out edition, beautifully scouted and researched map intertwining real history with our zombies narrative, mixing mobsters with monsters, and blowing it out of the water. Mob of the Dead was where I truly sank my teeth into zombies. I still remember how much I loved the incredible atmosphere, the eerie environments, and that cutscene. Ooh, that cutscene. Zombies was changing, for the better. Mixing in some paranormal elements with the gameplay, the Easter egg being fun, inventive, and interactive, the Wonder Weapon slapping and having different variations, a new perk that would become a fan favorite, new boss zombie that would actually have you running scared, one of the best crews to date. Mob of the Dead is a masterpiece. No exceptions. S tier. Next up is Buried. After taking some time away from the Victus crew of Misty, Stu, Russman, and Marlton, the community, I'm sure, was a bit hesitant to bring them back, as their last two outings weren't up to par. This map, however, buried any worries. Buried was such an odd experience when I first gave it a shot so long ago, but I remember being in love with the theme, the music, and the atmosphere. It was a western town with all the commodities, who can complain? It was a haunted house with tons of mysticism that kept the mystery of the map going. It all fit together really nicely, and was a breath of fresh air. Instead of having a boss against us, we kinda had one working with us, in the case of Leroy, a sorta gentle giant that works for booze and candy, which is more relatable than I care to admit. He can open doors, hold zombies, keep the box place down, you name it. The perk in this map was a diamond in the rough and really became a favorite among the community, as it would give us ammo, points, temporary invisibility. It was the whole package. The Wonder Weapon gave us temporary flight, the ability to slow and deteriorate zombies, and the Easter egg really leans into the environment at play and holds the interest of the player, as well as finishing out the roles of the Victus crew. For now. Buried is a great map and doesn't disappoint. A tier. Alright everybody, cue best cutscene in the game, cue one of the best maps in all of history, cue one of the best songs in COD Zombies history as well, and here we go. We are at Origins. I remember the day I saw the intro cutscene for Origins on YouTube and buying the map immediately. I was hooked before I played. The original characters were there, but they felt different, more real, grounded, and badass. The setting was amazing, a World War I battlefield surrounding a dig site, ethereal generators powering Frankenstein-looking apparatus, and such a visceral archaeological twist on it all. Boasting one of the best Easter eggs out there, some of the most memorable Wonder Weapons, a new boss with an alarm that would send fear into a player, giant robots stomping amidst the chaos with the chance of crushing you. Origins is so zombies that it hurts. It is one of the highest peaks in zombies history, and for good reason. Easy S tier. Alright, sorry, I was coming down off of a hot flash there. Next up will be Shadows of Evil. Well, it may have taken Black Ops 2 a while to get its bearings, Black Ops 3 really started off with a banger, in the form of Shadows of Evil. The mystery and Lovecraftian influences on the map really gave an eerie, mystical feel to the environment, and on top of nailing the atmosphere and look, there were plenty of fantastic additions to the series, such as the newest wonder weapon, the Apothicon Servant, a black hole gun that requires astroglide and willpower to wield, unless you prefer going in raw. Other additions include what you may consider the first true boss fight of the series with the Shadow Man, as well as a new variant of the Monkey Bomb, the Little Arnie's, complete with upgrade quest. The first special ability weapon is also included as an unlock quest in the form of a Lovecraftian sword. There's a summonable great value Robocop that can fight alongside the players, new boss round zombies including flying acid-spitting parasites, meatballs, and the three-headed Margwa. The Easter egg is intensive and unique, although it does require 4 players to fully complete. Taking a note from Mob of the Dead, the Afterlife mode has been repurposed into Beast mode, which transforms the player into an Apothicon monster which can grapple, jump, and zap around the map, working effectively the same as its predecessor. There are tons of influences from Mob of the Dead, and the feel and theme hits nicely. Unfortunately, while the newest gimmick of this generation of zombies was the Gobblegum system, which on its own is a welcome addition, and a fun change-up to the formula increasing the ways to play, I feel some of the Easter egg can be disproportionately difficult, or at least seem intended to be aided by Gobblegums. Another downside I feel of this map, however, is the replayability, as once me and my friends hunkered down, learned the map, finished the Easter egg, we never felt much desire to return, as the setup for each run takes a little bit, and if you've done it once, the luster fades a tiny bit as well. That being said, it's still an insanely strong launch map, definitely the best by far. A tier. Taking another little mini bonus map detour, I want to say once again, while I am not covering remastered maps specifically, I am covering the few remakes, which have enough changes made to warrant a ranking of their own. The Giant is the first, and is a pretty faithful recreation of Darice from World at War. Placed at a different point in the timeline and utilizing the new BO3 mechanics such as a specialist weapon, gobblegum, and game-specific weapons, the Giant is a fun time with the same type of formula of play as the original. Aside from a new side Easter egg involving a laser and a pile of snow, I feel what's missing is the obvious. It's a remake with some switched up features, but not enough of a drastic change to make me feel much of anything about it. This is all well and good, as it technically is a bonus map still, such as Nuketown was. However, I feel like there was enough of a reason present to make more interesting changes or additions, such as they would with further remakes in the future. It's a fun time, but nothing really to write home about. C tier. Black Ops 3 just doesn't let off with the bangers. We have Der Eisendrache up next, and it was the next big step forward for zombies, taking us to a snowy castle fortress in the mountains, home to rocket test sites, ancient weapons, and history that would shape integral parts of the storyline going forward. With new wonder weapons almost mirroring the origin staffs, we instead have elemental bows, and a new specialist weapon, the Ragnarok DG4s, with slam attack and vortex move. The Easter egg really retains interest and has a lot of replay value, as it's not only fun, but also a nice challenge. Different parts of the map really shape the story overall, with tons of environmental storytelling, and it lends itself well to what we've come to expect on a level of polish. Unfortunately, it is worth mentioning that while it does in some regards take aspects of Origins and other maps and improve on them, because it draws a lot of inspiration, I feel it sways on the line of relying on tried and true as opposed to risky innovation. Overall, though, it is still a heavy-hitting map, setting more solid groundwork for Black Ops 3 as a whole. A tier. Now, I know I said Black Ops 3 wasn't really letting up with the bangers, but they kinda let up a tiny bit with Zetsubou No Shima. I'm here to fight the stigma, though, that some associate with Zetsubou No Shima, as while it may be considered the weakest link in the Black Ops 3 DLC cycle, people don't realize that this game's weak link can be compared to the best of another game's. Zetsubou really nails atmosphere, brings back some of the creepier tones of zombies. That was a welcome change. The story is still gripping and compelling with an Easter egg that's challenging, fun, but has a few steps that I'm not a fan of, which I'll list now. Gardening, zipline, gobblegum. If you know, you know. The map has plenty of challenges, though, if you don't want to pursue the main quest all the way through, such as a new wonder weapon, the spore-spreading KT-4, its upgrade, the Masamune, a mini-boss fight with a giant spider, a quest to become a spider, ways to get free perks, revives, etc., and a new specialist weapon, the Skull of Nansapwe. Capable of vaporizing and mesmerizing, it really is a cool addition. The map layout can be a bit much in terms of routes and intertwining paths, with some feeling too cramped and some feeling unnecessary or over-encumbered with set dressings. While it may not be the best map of Black Ops 3, it definitely holds its own in the long run. B tier. Up next is Gorod Krovi. Gorod came at a time when the community was aching for something new, something to keep the previous surge of interest going in the series after a bit of a lull with Zetsubou No Shima not entirely meeting people's expectations. Boy, did the community get more than what they bargained for. Gorod Krovi is nothing short of a masterpiece, whether it be environmental storytelling, atmosphere, innovation, or fun. Even though I'm verbally slopping this map's top E in general, I'll be a bit more specific. Gorod Krovi has such a memorable layout that even after playing for a shorter amount of time, I was able to pick up on and memorize the routes and nuances much better and easier than on a map like Zetsubou. Next, the map brings about improvements on things such as travel, weapons, and enemies. The map is pretty sizable and offers various methods of shortening travel throughout, whether it be steam-powered doors that are openable and usable for a short time before locking again, connecting separate sides of the maps, or dragons, which are also a large part of the map, which pose threats as well as helping us to traverse the ruins of Stalingrad. The animation and cinematic nature of the map's travel, as well as the map feeling larger than life as a whole, really makes this feel like a unique experience for the player. New weapons include the return of the fan-favorite PPSH, a new and improved shield with a blast attack, a new dubstep upgrade for the monkey bombs, a new ray gun variant, the Mark III, a new specialist weapon that is made up of the equivalent of a hydraulic power fist with a baby dragon flamethrower duct taped to it, giving the fisting a familiar burning effect. There's also the monkey bomb adjacent dragon strike remote, harkening back to the G-Strike from Origins, but it's fucking dragons, so I'll call it a net positive. New enemies include robotic Valkyrie drones and Russian robo-soldiers called Manglers. The Easter egg heavily involves all the map, which might be a negative if I could find anything to complain about regarding any part of the map. If it wasn't all good enough, the boss fight being split between working with Metal Gear Nikolai to fight a giant dragon and then fighting Nikolai with the Russian anthem playing really gives it the unnecessary boost this map needs to be one of the GOATs. S tier. Last but not least for Black Ops 3, we have Revelations. Revelations is a love letter to the series, ultimately setting up a facade of an ending to tide players over until the next game to properly close out the story. Story aside, the map is comprised of segmented pieces of previous maps in Zombies history, with launch pads between parts and Nacht serving as the main hub between worlds, with tech capable of trapping a passing Leviathan, opening up another part of the map in which we get the filthiest neck a COD player can ask for, before landing in the stomach of the Leviathan, which holds Pack-a-Punch and a quad-tunnel blowhole for when you're ready to leave. Everything has a very mystical feeling and really gives the player the sense of connection between generations of maps and how they all are a part of this big story. The Parasites are back, as well as the Margwas, Keepers, and the light-skinned UPS drivers making their debut. The Apothicon Servant is back and finally upgradable, along with the Ragnaroks, Villarnis, and the Thundergun. Revelations is a joy to play, and while it plays to a lot of nostalgia, it gives us some of the best parts of the past, but it doesn't really innovate much in the sense of bringing us something new outside of story. It's a great map, but ultimately I think it needed more to carve its own identity. B tier. Up next, we're going to be covering Voyage of Despair. One of the first in the pair of Chaos Story maps we got in Black Ops 4 launch season, Voyage of Despair takes place on the Titanic, giving us the true reason why that boat was unable to avoid an ice cube in the ocean's widest cup of water. Eerily accurate to the layout of the real-world counterpart, Voyage is an oddly surreal experience traversing the luxurious ship. This is a strong suit of the Chaos Story maps as it gives us a chance to visit real-world historical and mythological locations that otherwise just wouldn't have fit as well in the Ether story. The downside of staying true to the layout of the Titanic is that the ship's company didn't design it for running trains or being host to such violent crowds, meaning that one of the map's strengths ends up being one of its downfalls. New zombie types exclusive to the Chaos maps include Elemental Zombies, the Blightfather, and the Stoker Zombie, which is only on Voyage. The new wonder weapon of the map is the Kraken, which is literally a hand cannon, with rotating barrels and optional elemental upgrades. Also new to Chaos maps is the Homunculus lethal throwable, replacing the Monkey Bomb and solidifying its place as one of the funnier weapons of the Zombies universe. The crew is solid, and I honestly have no complaints personality-wise, as it gives me a weirdly Cowboy Bebop type of vibe, with Diego as the reckless gunslinger, Bruno as the muscle, Scarlet as the mysterious dame, and Shaw as the scientist or mechanical mastermind of the group. The Easter egg is neat, but ultimately I feel like it wastes the potential of cool references and utilizations of the map's location, though the boss fight is pretty interesting as you end up fighting the personification of the iceberg. At the end of the day, for one of the first Chaos maps, it finds its footing in some regards, but struggles to hang on in others. C tier. Up next is 9. 9 is the other Chaos map released at launch, and boy, let me tell you, between the mythological influence and the real-world references being intertwined in the Chaos story, I was all in. 9 has one of the most memorable starting rooms of all time, with great training opportunity and challenge mixed in with fire-dispensing floor panels. You really feel like the performer on display for the crowd, and the Zombies team really leans hard into the mythology and atmosphere of the Colosseum, introducing zombie tigers, gladiators, and berserkers who make the map come alive. The new shield of the map is inspired by the Brazen Bull, and fires a volley of projectiles. The wonder weapon of the map is the Death of Orion and possesses the ability to hold zombies captive in the air, arcing electrical powers to nearby zombies, which is pretty interesting as it is quite literally a scorpion duct taped to your hand. Next up, the map is split into 5 main sections on the surface between the spawn circle and the 4 mythological pillars which house the main perks and even more environmental storytelling with different mythological histories being held in each tower and in the underground layer of the map, made of even more smaller sections which house the pack-a-punch, box locations, buildable sections, and routes connecting everything. The Easter egg is amazing and really takes advantage of the environment, engrossing the player in the map and the intricacies that show just how much went into the whole experience. The boss fight introducing zombie elephants with war parties atop them is such a crazy event that for the first time in a while I was genuinely surprised and anticipating what could be on the horizon. This map is an S tier. Next up we have Blood of the Dead, and if you guys didn't like my previous takes, you're really not going to like this one. Blood of the Dead is infamous in the community and was a meme for the longest time as people really weren't feeling it, and the flavor of the month for the community during launch season was hatred. Blood of the Dead is a total reimagining of Alcatraz Island from Mob of the Dead and utilizes so much more of the island, leaning heavy into the storytelling, which is brilliantly assisted by both the environment and atmosphere. This Easter egg is brilliant, by the way. After working for days with my friend to finish this egg, I gained such an appreciation for how much love and passion was in this map, and it really sucked to see the reception of the map being held back by technical issues in the beginning. This being said, it certainly isn't perfect and has a pretty sharp learning curve for the amateur player. There isn't much space for good training, and it feels like there's much more of an uphill battle while you're playing, which, while fitting the story and message of the map, doesn't translate to gameplay as well. There's a new shield utilizing zombie soul power, allowing a spectral blast akin to Afterlife's shocking inutility. The Blundergat and Acid Gat return with a new variation as well, called the Magma Gat. The Golden Spork and Hell's Retriever return as well, and lots of questions were answered with this map, but many more were raised as well. I realize I may be alone in this, but I have a lot of respect for this map. B tier. Moving on to the last of the bonus maps, we have Classified. Classified is a map that I certainly wasn't expecting to happen. 5 without the original presidential crew just doesn't hit the same, and although it's cool to see the location reimagined, complete with Winter's Howl, Shield, and a welcome return to Area 51, there are some neat Easter eggs here and there, although the main Easter egg is locked behind a grueling 150-round requirement. Cool idea, neat story implications, unnecessary map. D tier. Up next in our main line of maps for Black Ops 4, we have Dead of the Night. Dead of the Night is another celebrity cast map, although this time a first for the Chaos story. This map feels like Paranormal Clue, and yes, it was the butler. The map is comprised of a sprawling, affluent estate owned by Scarlett's father, with secrets everywhere and plenty of evidence of his genius, probably including a car powered by water, which explains why he promptly went missing. The new wonder weapon of the map, Alistair's Folly, is an upgradable pistol which can create cyclones, pools of acid, shrinking portals, and fireballs. There's also a new steak knife, perfect for killing the vampires scouring the estate, as well as a crossbow that fires stakes as well. Enemies include Nosferatu and werewolves, both of which are really neat inclusions and fit the theme well, with certain parts of the map representing each, such as a dense forest and graveyard. The Easter egg is another unique experience leading to a fantastic boss fight, which is a satisfying finish to the map. Things can be a bit overwhelming as there's a lot to learn and figure out regarding the map, and there have certainly been better layouts, with the vampires and werewolves making training a lot more troublesome. B tier. Lord help me, I am about to bust. Ancient Evil is the last Chaos map that we would receive, and to this day I will never forgive the community for shunning this storyline. Ancient Evil is innovation incarnate, and by far one of the most incredible awe-inducing zombies experiences I've ever had. The city of Delphi, Greece is where the map takes place, and the map utilizes Greek mythology in such an amazing and memorable way. 4 unique elemental wonder weapons, which, while done before, feels entirely new in how they're utilized. It feels much more mystical and innovative in how they are unlocked and upgraded. Next, we have a round shield complete with spear, which is a personal favorite both functionally and aesthetically. We also have a new Pegasus strike command, and can ride the Pegasus to the River of Sorrows, which is essentially the River Styx and the Underworld all in one. A new boss zombie is introduced as well, which is a 4-armed shield and spear-wielding giant. The Easter egg is an amazing Indiana-style experience that culminates in one of the coolest bosses we've ever faced, Perseus. This map is divine in every sense of the term, and is the easiest ranking on this list by far. S tier, suck my dick. Alright, sorry, I blacked out again. I'm back. Alright, next up, Alpha Omega. Because the community needed its ether bottle, next we got Alpha Omega, a Nuketown reimagining that does its best. It also does technically have the biggest playable crew potential between both universes' versions of Takeo, Dempsey, Richthofen, and Nikolai, and we get to experience the underground shelter portion of Nuketown for the first time in Zombies, which, while utilizing Blackout assets, still hits a cool spot for the legacy fans that have been around since the original Nuketown. The map is a bit smaller, but still uses teleporter pads to get around quicker. New Nova Crawlers permeate the map, making the smaller spaces feel even smaller and quickly becoming more of a headache than they are worth. For wonder weapons, we do get 4 new variations of the Ray Gun Mark II, which, while all not made equal, are equally cool in theory. The Easter egg is the redeeming quality of the map, allowing us a showdown with the Avogadro. Ultimately, they did what they could with what they had, but at this point in time, the damage had been done to their budget and it was becoming a bit more apparent. C tier. Now, I have a friend that would, suck Nacht der Toten's penis if he had a chance, and if that was physically possible. However, I am not one of those people. The climax of the Ether story that everybody wanted is a pretty divisive topic in the community, and before getting into the map itself, I'll say that I think the ending made a lot of sense story-wise, and could have served as the ending whether the map was a Call of the Dead reimagining or not. Now, onto the map itself, we oddly enough play as the Victus crew, working for the Ultimus and Primus crews. The map is a reimagining of Call of the Dead, as I mentioned before, and adds in new locations, including an icy research facility, and more that bridge gaps between the map. We get a new variation of the Thunder Gun called the Tundra Gun, and a remix of the Wonderwaff. One of my favorite additions to the map is the new Monkey Bomb-esque throwable, which is a music box that summons Samantha to draw in and annihilate zombies. It is a super cool addition that I absolutely love. There are also other additions that feel right at home with zombies, such as a George Romero tribute and a Golden Pack-a-Punch. While it may not be what the community thought they wanted, the map and its ending is almost poetic in how blunt the ultimate solution is, and how despite the lack of theatrics, it ultimately just made sense. B tier. Moving on to Cold War, we have D Maschine. The launch map of COD Cold War is another entire reimagining of Nacht der Toten, although fortunately it is much more new than it is old, with Nacht serving mostly as a passageway between portions of the map. Cold War Zombies has a bit more of a multiplayer feel than I personally would prefer, but for what it is and seeing a new direction for the story taking place, it certainly has some cool additions that assist in giving it the good old Zombies feel that people were looking for, such as a main Easter egg quest, cool new wonder weapon, and 4 unique upgrade options. A new armor and rarity system is implemented, which can definitely be gotten used to, but I could take it or leave it. All of this being said, the Easter egg is significantly easier than those of previous CODs, and doesn't give the same challenge we have all grown to love. The layout, however, is a strong suit of the map with good training spots, a good size, and segments that connect in ways that make sense. The option to exfil is introduced, and one of the more controversial decisions is that of getting rid of a dedicated crew and instead allowing you to play as your operators, to which I say whoever got that approved and pushed through, and whoever conceived of the idea should seek immediate mental assistance, as well as a confessional with a minimum of 500,000 Hail Marys. Long story short, C tier. Oh, Firebase Z. Firebase Z is a map. Not exactly sure why, but it does exist. Firebase Z is entertaining for about as long as it takes to finish the Easter egg once and then realize that we have free will. The layout is fine, but there is very little about this map that feels like zombies to me. The coolest parts of the map is the wonder weapon, the Ray K, which has a neat enough idea but feels kinda half-baked, and the Orda boss. The new zombie mimics are pretty cool, but all these things are doing some pretty damn heavy lifting to keep this map from joining Verrückt. B tier. Up next, we have Nacht der Toten, which is a step in the right direction, kind of, with an atmosphere that feels more in line with what we should expect. There's a new civil protector like Robot Helper, and another ray gun like Wonder Weapon that has multiple attachments that change how the gun functions, somewhat reminiscent to what they did with the ray gun in Alpha Omega. The Easter egg is a bit more involved and feels more in line thematically with D Maschine, however it has a proper multi-stage boss fight. New zombies include Disciples, which can float around and shoot beams at you while siphoning energy from nearby zombies, and we also see the Panzer effectively return as the Krasny Soldat, along with the Mangler. The team was doing what they could with the map, but zombies at the time just wasn't hitting as it used to. C tier. If it hasn't been clear at this point, I wasn't the biggest Cold War fan, but Forsaken, the last zombies map I care to acknowledge for my tier list, is the last of the Cold War release cycle, and it actually wasn't too bad. The coolest things I'll touch on here are the Wonder Weapon, which is a dual-mode axe gun made of crystals, aptly named the Crystal Axe, and surprisingly enough, the spawn room. It's really spacious and made gun leveling challenges a breeze. Through the map, we face the full slew of zombies introduced in Cold War, including the new multi-headed abominations. The Easter egg is entertaining enough with a good ending cutscene including a banger song and the revelation that Eddie Richtofen is alive and in control. Unfortunately, the map itself is literally ripped from a campaign mission, which took a lot of wind out of the sails in terms of having something new to experience. The layout is alright, but the map honestly falls onto the same spectrum that most of Cold War Zombies does. C tier. Well, that's it. You actually made it through the end of the video. That concludes my official Call of Duty Zombies tier list, and I hope you guys enjoyed hearing me rant and rave like a schizophrenic about a video game that's near and dear to me. If you'd be so kind as to drop a like, leave a comment, or subscribe, it would be greatly appreciated. I really put a lot of effort into this video, and I'm a small channel with some big aspirations, so each bit of support means the world, and it helps more than you realize. Till next time, keep on sipping, y'all. Henny out.